actually have a very big thank you for somebody amazing that is in this room. Where's Caleb Altmeyer? Caleb back there? Stand right there for me, please. Caleb has made a choice to dedicate his life to saying yes to something that most people don't even have the courage to talk about. To say yes to something that needs to be talked about. He said yes to being a voice for something to me is disgusting that it happens in this world and that most people are unwilling to talk about what's actually happening in our world. Grew up son of a pastor. And now you know this without me telling you this, you already are a pastor yourself. You are leading God's work. You are an example for all of us of committing to something, having no idea where it's going to go. And since we've known each other, even some of the stories that you've shared with some of the things that are currently going on, you keep leaning in more and you keep being rewarded in ways because of your service to making a difference in the world with something that people just don't want to talk about. You're bringing awareness to it. You are doing God's work. You are amazing. You like to tell me all the time that I inspire you. You inspire me. And so when you gave us an opportunity to be able to share and to spread your voice of what you're doing, I know Amy and I have been supporting helping captives since the day that you and I met, and we will continue to do so because it's very meaningful for us and our family. But your work is amazing. For those of you that haven't chatted with Caleb yet, we're going to play a video and allow the video to tell more of the story so you can understand exactly what I'm talking about. And then I'm going to give you this stage because you deserve it. And your voice needs to be heard louder and louder and louder and louder. We're also, as a group, going to be making a significant contribution to helping captives for all the great work that Caleb Altmeyer does. And so Caleb, let's roll this video and then I'm going to give you the stage.
What would you do if your daughter, sister, or mom was sold into sex trafficking? I'll tell you what you would do. It doesn't matter what it cost you. You'd move heaven and earth to get her back, wouldn't you? All over the United States, our innocent ones are being forced, tricked, and threatened into a prison of rape and addiction. And I'm tired of the message that we're sending by allowing it. What's that message? It's our girls being told that the only value they bring is their bodies. It's families being ripped apart everywhere you look. But most importantly, it's these scum of the earth people taking advantage and selling our girls. We can do so much more to protect them. Which is why we decided to do something about it.
The walls of the former Gentleman's Club are now coming down to make way for healing. The well-known Deja Vu strip club is now being transformed into a place of refuge for survivors of sex trafficking.
Helping Captives, one of the only anti-trafficking organizations in our area offering 24-hour care for survivors, to be known as the Freedom Center.
Something that was considered kind of a stain on this community is going through a complete transformation.
Ben, you made me emotional, man. Appreciate the love. How cool is that? It's pretty sick. Well, I got good news and bad news. The good news is that we actually have all the money we need to do the project. The bad news is all the money's in your pockets. So, how many of you guys remember the first crush that you ever had? I want you to think about that person for a second. My parents have a pretty unique love story. They dated for 3 years before they even kissed at the altar. That's not my story or my past, but that's my parents' story. And so they were so excited to get married. They were in like honeymoon stage, and then 5 months after they get married, my mom and dad get in a horrible car accident, which makes my mom a quadriplegic. So I was actually raised by a mom in a wheelchair. She decided no matter what, she wanted to be a mom. That's all she cared about. She wanted to be a mom, and no matter what life threw at her, she wasn't going to stop with that dream. And so I was born into this crazy family with a dad that ran a homeless shelter and a mom in a wheelchair. Because of that, I never actually sat behind my mom my whole childhood. I always sat in her lap. She had a sling, I'd sit in the sling, we'd cruise around. It's probably why I like Harley so much. I just grew up. That was my life, cruising and racing. So you can imagine when my first crush comes over to the house, it's a neighbor girl, and she's babysitting me, and she asked me to brush her hair, and I'm going, oh my gosh, she smells so good. Because the only person I was ever behind before was my dad when we're wrestling, and he didn't smell good. So now I've got this girl that smells amazing, and I kind of get a crush on her. And I remember one day she takes me and my brother through the woods to her house to get some Disney movies. And I remember walking into her house and the fear on her little brother and sister's face when we walked into the house. And I remember them asking her, why are they here? What are you doing with them? And I still remember the look on her face. She goes, I'm just trying to sneak a movie and then we'll be right out. And I didn't understand that until about 30 years later. When she came over to our family's house and told me the reason they were so scared, and the reason that she was actually scared to go through the woods. And it was because she saw her cousin sacrificed in a ritual in those woods. And her parents had been selling her into sex trafficking through the occult since the age of 6. Her brother was later murdered. It was a horrible story. And she begins to talk to me, and I started asking her questions. She goes, yeah, when I was 6, my mom took me into a room and made me take my clothes off, and there was a bunch of other kids in this basement, and there was a crack in the wall, and there was water dripping, and we all had to stand up across this wall. And these older men came in and started picking us. And she said I was abused over and over again. And when I was screaming and asking for help, my mom just said, shut up, you're a girl, this is what you do. And I just remember that breaking me, because I'm sitting here with this girl that I had a crush on, I hadn't seen for so long. She had surgery because all of her internal organs and stuff were shot from all the trafficking. And I go back, and I'm running a youth center at the time, and I go and talk to my staff, and I'm just wrecked. I have the same look you guys have on your face. And they're asking me why I'm struggling, and I'm supposed to lead this meeting, and I can't think, and I just open up about it, and the girl next to me starts weeping. She works with me. She's one of my staff members, and she tells me her story, that her dad worked at a prison and would sell her to all his prison guard buddies. Now, my dad is my hero. If you can imagine a guy that's still married to my mom, rocking, baddest ass dad ever. He looks like John Wayne. He rides Harleys, he shoots guns, he boxes, he's awesome. But he's also a loving, caring dad. He's safe, but he's also a man, and he's protective. And so whenever he would walk over to the office to see me, she'd walk into the back room, and I could never understand why until she starts telling me her story, that my dad reminds her of the guys that worked at the prison because he works out. And her dad would sell her to his prison guard buddies and traffic his own kid. And I remember the day when she realized my dad was safe and she wanted a hug from him, but she was so scared. She was in the corner and she was trembling in fear, a 20-something-year-old girl so scared to walk 15 feet to give my father a hug, my hero. This loving dad, she's scared of him. And it broke me, guys. It broke me. It will never get out of my head. And I remember sitting there and going, like, why is this happening? Why is sex trafficking happening? What part am I playing in it with my porn addiction and all the crazy stuff in my past? The only thing I was good at in high school, guys, you've got wrestlers and track stars. I was only good at rolling joints. Like, that was it for me in high school. How could God use me? And how in the world is this happening? And, you know, as soon as you hit 7th grade, it's like the culture's trying to get me as a young guy addicted to porn, so I start looking at women as objects instead as people. And all my 7th grade girlfriends, culture screaming at them, saying the only thing you're good for is your body. And I'm sick of it. Because as we as guys start looking at women as objects and girls start looking at themselves as objects, the next thing you know, we've got people selling people. And so we start the organization thinking we're going to help 3 women. We have 21 women go through our safe house in 9 months. We have no idea what to do. And we learned and we learned and we learned. And we started growing and we need a new building. And so this opportunity comes to buy this strip club. This club where addiction happens. This club where a lot of the women have been trafficked in our city. This club where some of my staff used to work. And I take them there and go, hey, should we do this? And they start crying. They go, yes. This is what God does in our life. He takes something that was dirty and broken and gives us a whole new purpose. Let's do this. So I'm all excited. My city hits me up, invites me in for $1 million grant. I think I'm going to get the whole money. And the day before, they hit me up and say, hey, listen, if you get the money, then the building has to be used for secular use only. So I go in and turn the money down. Because I'm not turning my back on Jesus for any amount of money. And the only person that can really heal inside out is God, and I'm not playing that game. So we turn down the money. I end up, somebody hears about it, invites me to an event. I walk in to Eric Rock's event, and there's this bald-looking, ripped dude standing next to me, the bald Chuck Norris, and I'm looking at him. He starts speaking. He's the only guy that I know whose vein should have its own Instagram page. And we start connecting and talking, and before I know it, I'm getting excited and learning and growing. And now helping captives has gone from helping 30 women a year to we've helped over 300 this year. And when you guys look at your alarm clock, Ben will tell you to set your alarm to remind you of your burn. I've got different burns for different things I do, but my alarm clock says Casey Jr. She was a friend of mine, or a buddy of mine that I was mentoring, his sister-in-law. And she was being trafficked, and she needed help. But we didn't have this building yet. And she wasn't quite ready, and we didn't have 24/7 intake. And she's thinking about it, and eventually we find out, because we couldn't take her in, she said, I'll come back in 3 days. Well, the next day she was murdered by her pimp. This is real, guys. This is happening in our United States. 1 out of 3 girls is sexually abused by the time they're 18 now. And I just want you to think, what would you do if it was your kid? How much money would you give? We've got this opportunity to buy this club. It's $700,000 that I owe, and I have a $350,000 match. So if I can raise $350,000, we can just buy the building. And I know not everybody can do that, but maybe somebody can. And in this room, with the leadership that we have and the connections we have, somebody knows somebody, or we can make that happen. if you can only get me 25 grand, you can sponsor a room and meet Tim Tebow at our event when we launch the building. But maybe some of you guys can only give $10. Well, for every $10 that's donated, it's equivalent to a full hour of care for a survivor, which means they get food, clothing, housing, counseling, horse therapy, all of it. So here's all I'm going to ask you to do. I was just with Steve Weatherford doing ministry this morning. He already came in here and preached, so all of you guys are saved and going to church now anyway. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I just want you to bow your heads. And I just want you to ask this question. Jesus, do you love me? Now that same voice that said yes, we're going to ask another question. Jesus, how much money do you want me to give? Now, he probably gave you a number. If he didn't, no big deal. I'm not going to twist your arm. But this is between you and God. And my promise to you is that if you're obedient, then we will do everything we can to take your sacrifice and to rescue and change these women's lives. God bless.
Hey, Renee, Ben, can they put that back up?
Can you put that QR code back up, please?
Thank you.
Caleb, Caleb, will you do me a favor? Don't ever silence your voice. You know, the reality is for all of us, we're going to be met with fears and doubts and uncertainties, and there are going to be times that are going to get tough. And some of the support and the things that are happening for him and their mission, I mean, it's extraordinary. I mean, he in that video, just to highlight this, literally took a strip club and now has turned it into his headquarters to save women. I mean, it's incredible. And very soon they'll pay off that building already because of his courage for his voice to keep getting louder and louder and louder. Keep getting louder and louder and louder, because there aren't many people who have the courage to talk about what you just talked about on this stage. And it is hard to hear. But you got to make sure that that voice stays.